Dear seers, KUGAN CASSIUS for IFLTV. Am I delighted to see you today, or are you delighted to see me today?
I'm not delighted to see you. Imagine knowing, right? Imagine, like, obviously Saturday night happened, and then literally been non-stop ever since. And imagine knowing that you kind of have a duty and an obligation to our loyal viewers that have watched over the years, and all the boxing fans in the world, to have to sit down with you and do an interview when you feel like it the least. Do you know what I mean? I actually just want to let people know, if people think I look a bit rough at the moment, I actually felt all right on Sunday and Monday. And then last night I was with His Excellency and a team till, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm a bit tired today. But I'm here. I'm ready to answer your questions. I'm ready to give you the energy. And, yeah, let's go.
You've kind of been here before with Joshua, obviously going back 5 years ago with the Ruiz fight at Madison Square Garden, suffering his first loss, then the two losses. How painful was that for you to watch the other day?
Yeah, it was, I mean, obviously the way that the two fights played out were very different, and the preparation was different. He wasn't himself going into the Ruiz fight, and I'd love to sit here and say, oh yeah, you know, to be fair, he had an injury in camp or wasn't very well. He had a great camp. He looked sensational in training. Best, maybe, that he's looked in training. All very confident. By the way, you know, when people say, oh, it's a massive, massive shock, upset, I don't really feel like that. Now, the way the fight played out was more of a shock, but I felt this was a very, very tough and dangerous fight, as it should be for a world title. So, a couple of things, like obviously the worst start you could ever imagine, and made some basic mistakes early in the fight that really cost him, and he never really recovered. But when we was in the changing room after, it was weird because the fight was playing, right? All the replays were playing because we had the broadcast on, and no one turned it off. Like, every changing room that I've been in after a fight, normally after a defeat, you come in and if it's on, you just go straight up and fucking pull the plug out, whatever. And he was like sitting down, and he was like, fuck, you know, and Ben was next to him, and he was like, I just can't, what was I doing? And he went, mate, you just did this and you did this, all the things we said not to do, you did, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, and I sort of, you know, there was, I don't know, 30 people in the change room. And I sort of said, look, can I just say one thing? You showed so much bottle and arsehole in there, right? Number one, you couldn't stand up. You were gone. You never, ever looked for a way out. You always tried to get up. And you know, when you did get up, do you know what you're doing? Planting your feet, trying to land something, right? You know how many fighters in the past say, you know me, I'd rather go out on my shield, get knocked spark out than lose on points. Honestly, I've been in that situation 1% of the time, if that. He was always trying to win that fight. And somehow, like 1, 2 and 3, I can't even believe the fight was still going on. 4, still out, but at least finding his way back into the fight, landed one good shot. And then, in the 5th round, lands a great right hand, Dubois' legs buckle, and he jumps all over him to try and end the fight, to try and win the fight by knockout when he had very little left in the tank. I said to him, you are a warrior. You smelt blood and you thought to yourself, this is my chance. And you went in, you made another mistake, but you got chinned. But you did it backing him up, trying to knock him out. When you'd been down about 5 times, your legs were gone, you were completely out of the fight. I said, so I can't ask any more from you. I said, and I don't think the public can ask any more from you. And you know what? When you look yourself in the mirror tonight or tomorrow morning, you can say, I fucked up, I made some mistakes, but I could not have tried another inch in there. I said, so that's comfort. yeah, but what was I doing? I said, yeah, no, you made mistakes. You boxed terrible. But you tried your very hardest and you showed so much heart and courage. Mate, I'm fucking proud of you. And everyone was like, and then we were watching the knockout back and he was like this, oh, you know, because in a weird way, I think he half enjoyed the fight, talking to him yesterday. You know, like, he was just like, that was wild. What was I doing? Like, but I was, and I thought I had him and because he's never been chinned like that before. If you look at all of his fights, including his defeats, yeah, Ruiz shot top of the head, got up, you know, got another one, never really covered, but never in a position where he couldn't get up and tried to get up. Tried very hard to get up, but couldn't. He's never experienced that before. And mentally, having been through that now, it just puts a little bit of a different perspective on. So I wasn't necessarily shocked by him losing. I was shocked by the mistakes he made. But also, I don't like this whole, Joshua did this. And like, Dubois had a game plan, and he was brilliant. Yeah? And I think he needs a huge amount of credit because all the things that he had to do or get AJ to do, AJ did. And he didn't make it easy for him, but the first round was a disaster. And once you get hit by a right hand like that, it takes you a few rounds to recover. When you've got this big ball walking you down and throwing shots non-stop, you've got to ride the storm. And it almost felt like he was on his way to riding a storm, but saw an opportunity, went for it, and that was all she wrote. But yeah, so when I look back on the night, my number one job will always be to have the back of my fight, especially people like AJ who I've got that kind of relationship with. But my other job is to make sure that everybody leaves that arena going, wow, what a night. And they did, didn't they? Let's be honest. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was the shot in the arm that British boxing needed. But it wasn't the shot in the arm that I needed. But it's sport. And it's incredibly humbling. And on the whole, I was just blown away by another, what will be, historic night at Wembley.
Not AJ, but was there any aspects of Team AJ, and that includes yourself and whoever else, that underestimated Daniel Dubois?
No way. No way. I mean, firstly, AJ knows Dubois. You know, the infamous spars. You know, he knows that he's a serious fighter. So does Ben. So did I. I mean, not that I'm in the training camp, but if you listen to all my interviews, I felt that AJ had a great chance to win this fight, and early, if he did the right things. But I also said, Dubois is incredibly dangerous. And if you let him get a foothold in the fight, what you have to do with Dubois is be the boss and not let him gain any confidence in this fight. Keep chipping away, breaking him down, buzzing him, hurting him. But by giving him the confidence, like after that first round, Dubois was like, I can't believe my luck because he deserves it, but I'm in here. I'm a beast. And he was just like, AJ couldn't even stand up at that point. So no one underestimate, like I can't come up with any excuses. And there will be no excuses. Great training camp, look better than ever. The form has been superb. The link up with Ben has been superb. The mindset was superb. But something, you know, just a mixture of maybe what was Dubois was doing and a mixture of AJ not doing it. He didn't do the things that he had to do. And if you don't do the things you had to do, you're going to get chinned. And he got chinned. He never recovered until he nearly recovered and then went for gold. But, you know, feels well different to the Ruiz defeat. Well different. Because we knew this was a dangerous fight. And also just the nature of the fight and how it all played out. Like, against Ruiz, he had him down. You know, should have been quite a straightforward fight. Got clipped, got stupid. Here he got clipped but come through it. And he got buttoned to the point where there's no arguments. I mean, I can't say, the ref should have given him more time or he was all right. He wasn't. The fight, as soon as he went down, I got up to get in the ring. And Ben was already on the apron. The fight was over. And, you know, thriller.
Would it hurt him more because it was Wembley?
Not really. Listen,
At home?
no, not really. He's gutted. I'll tell you one thing, and I will say, like, the internet is a brutal place, isn't it? I mean, unbelievably brutal. And the one thing that baffles me more than anything about the internet, and I don't actually think people are like what they type all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but I just, you know, when someone goes, "Oh, he's shit," he is, like, what a joke he is, like, no chin, oh yeah, blah, blah. It's like, no, but, and I know you can't say, well, look at what he's done with his life and what compared to what you have done with your life, because I think that's a bit, not everyone can achieve what AJ's achieved, but when someone is so clean-hearted, when they're like, they try every day to be the best, they put in the blood, sweat, tears, not just what they've achieved, but the effort that they put into their passion. I don't know how you can criticise anyone, you know? The support has been incredible, and it's lifted him unbelievably. Like, I know there's obviously people taking the piss out of him and stuff like that, but that's just a mindset of some people. The support has been incredible, and it's really helped lift him. And he is, I mean, he's one determined man. And speaking to him yesterday, I don't think I've ever heard him so determined. You know, and we had a great, honest chat yesterday. And yeah, he's all right. He's all right.
A couple of people that we spoke to after the fight, and I think a couple of people that I've seen since the fight, as in notably Ricky Hatton and Naz. Ricky Hatton said that he'd like to see him retire. Naz said he thinks that Joshua should now call it a day. What do you think about that opinion based on what happened on Saturday?
In boxing, and this isn't a reflection of Ricky or Naz, by the way, but in boxing, a lot of people want you out of the game because they're either envious, some people don't want you to have any more legacy, and some people care for you and think, why do you need it anymore? Like, I think that's the main thing, is like, you've been a 2-time world heavyweight champion, you've changed the game. What more is there to do? But life doesn't really work like that. When you have a burning passion for something, and when you're physically still very able to do it, and when you think that you have bigger opportunities and a path to walk that hasn't quite been finished yet, it's very difficult to say, like, I don't feel like I'm ready to retire. Josh said to me yesterday, he was like, I can't wait to get back. I'm doing this, I'm doing my rehab, my, physio, all this kind of stuff. And he went, so in my mind, I'm ready. I can't wait to get back. But he kind of said to me, but obviously you guys are there for your opinion as well. And because every fighter will say, no, I'm absolutely fine. Like, the thing is, the main places that I look is in the preparation, in camp. Sparring poorly, not holding a shot in sparring, training not really well, body breaking down, mojo just not really, heart not really in it. None of those things were even remotely close in camp. In fact, the other way, yeah? Flying, the last two perform, he's better than ever, wow, sparring better than ever, knocking people out, blah, blah, blah. So that was why the confidence was there for the performance. Now, what we have to do, I said to Josh, like, when you go back to training, the camp will tell us where you're at. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you don't, if you're a shot fighter or it's time for you to hang out the ropes, you don't have camps where you spar amazing or your chin's looking unbelievable or all this kind of stuff. And he'll feel it more than anyone. But the people that are around him, me, Freddie, 258, Ben, Lee, trust me when I say 1% of decline. And this journey is over. You know what I'm saying? Because we are not risking, in a sport as dangerous as boxing, and especially in the heavyweight division, carrying on for too long. Especially when you're Anthony Joshua. You know what I mean? And you've got the legacy in the bank, you've got the belts in the bank, you've got the money in the bank. Absolutely no way. Financially, it makes zero difference to AJ, to me, to the 258, if he ever fights again or not. So it can never be financial. It's just, we have to regroup as a team. He's got the best people around him, medically, you know, from a recovery point of view, from a nutrition, everything, to tell us we're in a great place. And we will never continue if his form dips. So we have to look at why, having looked so sensational in your last few fights, why after an unbelievable camp where you looked sensational, why did you make those mistakes in there? And for me, it's not, do you honestly think that his chin's no good? I mean, did you see the shots that he took? Right, like no one really gets up from that first right hand. It weren't even that heavy a knockdown. He got up, he was hurt, went back. Second round, he got hit with a huge left hook, still wasn't recovered from the first round, went to the ropes, his hands touched down on the floor, and the ref didn't call it a knockdown. And then he got battered on the ropes, battered, took a shellacking, went down, got straight up, hurt bad. I'm okay. Went back to the corner, took another, he took huge shots in that fight. One of the biggest punches in the sport. The other thing I'll say, this is quite funny, it's quite amusing. I said, you know when you got hit in the nuts? Yeah. I said, have a brain. He's like, what do you mean? I said, mate, you got hit right in the gonads with a monster, yeah? And the ref stopped the action straight away. I said, you've got 5 minutes to recover at that point. I stood up, I went, hey Jay, you got 5 minutes, take your time. He's like, what? I said, just go, take a knee, hang on the ropes, don't stop it. And then the ref looked at him and goes, you're all right, AJ? He goes, yeah, come on. I'm like, oh my God, you could take 5 minutes at that point to recover, but that's not in him. Shithousery is not in him. I'm thinking, use it to your advantage. He's going, no, fuck that, I'm ready to fight, come on. And again, that's just the man. So although it's brave and it's very courageous and all that, it's the experience of, look when Usyk got hit in the nuts. Went down, took 5 minutes. You got to, that's the experience. But, yeah.
Listen, we know he's got fucking balls. Eddie, need a bit of clarity on this. I heard your interview you did with Sky Sports yesterday regarding the possible rematch of Dubois and AJ. I see Derek underneath the comments asking you, well, do we have one or do we not? So can you just be as clear as you can about that?
We have a contract with Riyadh Season, Seller, etc. for another fight. One of our options is to rematch Daniel Dubois. Okay? Now, the reality is that His Excellency is making all these fights, putting all this money in. If we go to His Excellency and say, we want to rematch Daniel Dubois, yes, he will make it happen. If we say we might want to look at another option, we will look at another option. But all the conversations initially are geared towards the rematch for Daniel Dubois. So, yes, in our contract, one of our options is a rematch with Daniel Dubois. Now, the two things we have to consider are, is that the right fight for AJ next? Number two, when will that fight take place? Don't forget, Daniel's had a long camp, but he only got buzzed briefly in the fight. I'm sure he's looking and saying, so Daniel's probably going to fight in, February. Would we fight in February? Or do we wait for December 21st, which is Fury Usyk? Because for me, the biggest fight in boxing, still, to this day, even after Saturday, is Fury against AJ. And I know people say, oh, come on, Eddie, pulled out, tell me a bigger one.
No, I agree.
Tell me a bigger fight than that. So if Fury was to lose, maybe they both say, right, let's give the public one last hurrah, 2 big fights, done. Or if Fury wins, he could defend against AJ for the unified world heavyweight title. and AJ could beat him and become a 3-time world heavyweight champion. Anything's possible. Or we could rematch Daniel Dubois. Or could fight someone else. Deontay Wilder. I don't know. I mean, it's not something that's been discussed yet, but 2 guys coming off defeats, big punchers. Someone's got to go from the sport. But for me, I think the options are rematch Daniel Dubois or wait and see what happens in Fury against Usyk.
Waiting for Fury versus Usyk means that there's 3 months where you can't really plan his next move.
No rush. What's the rush? I mean, we just got knocked out. What is the rush? We've had December, March. We've had 3 fights in a year, right? And before that, he fought in, what was it, August? I mean, he's had 5 fights in 18 months, maybe, something like that. So, no rush. Like, the reality is, sneeze. Excuse me. The reality is, AJ, I said to him yesterday, and it did go quiet on the phone. I said, you could have 1 fight left, you could have 3 fights left. And that's kind of like the reality of where you are in your career. But I don't want him to carry on really beyond that. For me, he will only want to fight in massive fights, I think. And the 2 fights that mean the most to him is a rematch in Daniel Dubois and fighting Tyson Fury. I think they're the fights that are going to get him bang up for it.
Do you think he should rematch Dubois? Just your opinion.
Yeah, I believe he can beat Daniel Dubois. He has to get it right. And obviously, listen, the confidence of Daniel Dubois going into that fight, but that fight's all about the first 3 rounds.
What's his opinion about what he should do next?
He'll want to rematch Daniel Dubois. I mean, when any fighter gets beat, they just want the chance to avenge defeat. Look at Ruiz. And because he won every round in the rematch, people don't really look at this. Everyone told me, don't rematch Andy Ruiz, first off. Everyone. Just got stopped, went down 5 times. Do not, he won every round in the rematch. When he lost to Usyk, do not rematch Usyk. I couldn't even stop, like, for me, what else do you do? Like, and by the way, if we don't fight Tyson Fury or a fight like that, he should rematch Daniel Dubois. What are we in the game for? Have you ever known AJ to take, like, like, to warm up for something? You know, like, he wants to be in big fights. And that's really the options that are in front of him.
Let me chuck another literal wild card at you. A few people suggested that a fight for AJ next could be against Deontay Wilder. What do you think about that?
Do you know what? Before Saturday, I thought, I don't see that fight ever happening. I think it's a massive fight. I mean, you got 2 of the biggest punchers in the division coming off defeats, people questioning whether it's time to retire. It actually becomes quite fascinating. I mean, you don't really want to be fighting one of the biggest punchers in the sport coming off a knockout defeat. But he hasn't looked amazing in his last 2 fights, but he can still whack. So it's a jeopardy fight, isn't it? And it's like, I just think the heavyweight division's so exciting right now, don't you? You know, you got AJ, Usyk, Fury, Dubois, Parker, Zhang, Kabayel, Bacoli, Miller, Del Boy,
Dillian White there.
Joe Joyce still there, Dillian White, missed one out, I was just about to say. Mosey's coming through, Johnny Fisher coming through. You know, I think it's just brilliant times for the division. And I think His Excellency is getting a buzz out of kind of not cleaning the division up, but he's just throwing everybody in with each other, and he's losing, he's coming back, he's getting another fight, he's winning. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, listen, we're all beneficiaries of Riyadh season, and especially the heavyweight division.
Okay, the week as a whole, obviously I was present at every event. It was very eye-catching and spectacular during the whole course of the week. Obviously the event was amazing. I've read some articles from Boxing Scene in particular, from, I believe it was Declan Warrington that wrote the article. First of all, kind of questioning the crowd. Frank Warren said to me yesterday there was 98,000 people there. I think Turkey Al Sheikh had kind of put somewhere on his social media that there was just over 98,000 people there. It was being questioned in this article by some considerate number of whether that crowd was actually there. That's the first thing. And also there was long paragraphs in reference to media outlets not being granted accreditation. I don't know if you've seen any of this. Have you heard anything about this?
Firstly, that's an official attendance number. It's not just a number that everyone sat down and went, what should we say? 90? I mean, did you see it? It was pretty busy, wasn't it? I mean, you know, you got the back parts that, as you saw with Froch Groves and even AJ against Klitschko, which was 90,000. We had the whole of those rims not available. There was like a couple of patchy sections where that's literally like the final, you know, I don't even know if those tickets were released. So, yeah, I don't see why. I mean, you only got to look around to know that you couldn't move in there, and it does hold. I mean, however many was on the pitch, I don't know, 10, 12,000, plus everybody in their seats. Yeah, so on the media outlet stuff, obviously we weren't involved in the accreditation, but I have been involved in discussions around it. And, you know, I believe there are over 350 applications for media passes. I mean, actually, and that's from ones that we would generally accommodate. I believe also that, you know, each publication would be allowed one representative from that. So I don't know the ins and outs, but what I do know is that not everybody could be accommodated, and in some instances where someone was present from a particular outlet, you know, another person coming would be denied because that person and that paper or that outlet was already represented. So it's very difficult in this instance to make sure that everybody can be looked after. We get it all the time, even on the smaller shows. Like, you know how many, this is a different genre, but you know how many YouTube outlets there are. We can't give everybody accreditation for all the shows because there's just so many applications. So not everyone gets approved. And, you know, I think there's always going to be a lot of, you know, conversations when people get denied access as to why they might get denied access. But, you know, in a lot of instances, that outlet is already represented. And again, I don't know the ins and outs, but I do know that we have never seen a number like that in terms of media requests to attend that event.
These kind of situations, I know this isn't really a question for you, but you might be able to kind of give people a little bit of luck. So when these applications come in, is it predominantly based on how big the outlet is, or how big the outlet is in boxing, or how, if there's publications that have kind of followed Matchroom, Riyadh season, Frank Warren events for a considerable amount of years, is that taken into consideration?
Yeah, obviously you want the biggest outlets at the fight, right? So normally you'd be, like say you'd be right at the back of the list, but we'd let you in because you're our pals.
Cheers, mate.
But on a serious note, like, I don't know the ins and outs, but I do know that the Telegraph, which is the paper, you know, Gareth Davis, who is a sports writer at the Telegraph, was at the event. So the Telegraph had representation at the event. Obviously, if there's another request, or I don't know, you know, the ins and outs of even what happened, but you would always make sure that every major, I mean, you know, Jeff Powell from the Daily Mail was there, Don McRae from the Guardian was there. Literally every outlet had a representative there. So generally that's what would happen. But you imagine you've got all the international media, right? So you've got all the international broadcasters.
The Saudi media.
Yeah, all the international media. The Saudi broadcasters, the Saudi media. Then you have the national writers, the media. Then you have the 100 YouTube outlets that also want to come. And it's very difficult when you're trying to, you know, that's why now on the bigger events, as you know, a lot more of that you know, the main media, the international broadcasters, the international press will sit ringside. And now there might be another area in the stand, a media section, where other people sit, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, I know this because from Frochman Groves years ago, like we sat in the media bit, which was up the top, so that's where we was.
But that's a space issue. That's not. But of course, the more powerful outlets, particularly the international broadcasters, will be as close to the fight as possible. You know, I mean, where were you sat?
I was roaming, so I was roaming. I was grafting, mate. I did like 20 interviews. Yes, I did have a seat. It was well placed. Okay, well, it was well placed. I'm not going to listen. I'm not talking about myself, but it was well placed.
Yeah. So if there was a media outlet, a YouTube outlet that did, I don't know, a tenth of your numbers that managed to get accreditation, they might be in the media box, but not ringside. You know. So I don't know. It's very difficult when you've got so many applicants, and you know, there's all kinds of discussion points about the show and what happened, and people want to jump on it. But for me, I thought it was unbelievable. You know, we're all riding a crest of a wave.
What you've got to ask yourself, though, Eddie, the real question is, how many of these outlets and publications were at the Battle of Essex?
In Dubois Wayne?
Dubois Wayne, Lee Purdy versus Colin Lyons. Yeah. How many people were there, Ed?
Yeah. And some people want to just come to the bigger shows. But obviously their job is to cover the biggest events in sport. So I don't blame them for that, but it's not an easy job trying to take care of the media accreditations, and they're always going to be upset people. Always. We always get, why am I sitting here? There's three of us, you've only given us one accreditation, blah, 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 blah. So, like I said, it wasn't our responsibility, but I do understand how difficult it is to make sure everyone's looked after.
But for this, just the last one on this, for this Riyadh season, first card at Wembley, if there is one which we hope and expect another one to be of this capacity, will they kind of review all this stuff, I'm assuming, and then how they move forward so everyone's kind of accommodated, maybe?
You have to understand, like, the level of operation from Riyadh season and Cellar is like nothing you've ever seen before. So when they read this stuff, of course, they're not involved in that capacity necessarily. Do you understand? Like, when they see it, they'll want to know what's going on here. How can we fix it? What can we do better next time? Like, His Excellency wants every event to be 100% perfect. And I hope... Are you going to do an interview with His Excellency? Have you done one yet?
I haven't done. We've been trying, and there are talks at the moment. I
mean, I need to get him involved with Netflix first, obviously. That's the main priority. But I'm going to recommend to him that he does a sit-down interview with you, because he's very honest. Very honest. Raw. You'll love it, because it'll be raw. His Excellency, raw. And, you know, he will give you everything straight.
We have so many questions. But
like, you know, I'll give you an example, and you know, I don't know whether he wants me to talk about this or not, but I'm going to say it. The Saudi national anthem, right? You saw Jeff Stelling and other people saying, you know, why are they playing the Saudi national anthem? And I'm like, well, number one, the entire event, right? He's just given British boxing and all the fighters, all the fans, like the best night, he's paid for it all, right? In an event that would have lost a considerable amount of money. I couldn't have put that event on. Frank Warren couldn't have put that event on, right? So, yeah, it is almost like, it's almost like a proudness. And actually, when you talked about it, I said to him, the reality is, what would you say? And it would almost be like, well, I love Saudi. I'm so proud of my country, you know, for what we're doing and these events that we're putting on. And I love England and Britain. So we had the Saudi, we had Britain, and we're all you know. And I think that would be a fascinating question for you to ask him, because when he talks about it, he won't shy away from it, and he won't say, oh no, yeah, I don't know whose idea it was. He'll say, no, I'm so proud of what we delivered. You know, and I think we need to just look at the night and you know, his passion for the sport. What he has done is he's doing these events in Riyadh and he's seen British fight fans go, I wish you'd do one of those in Wembley. So he's gone above and completely outside of almost like, I don't know, his remit of Riyadh season and gone, I'm going to deliver a Riyadh season event for the British fight fans and for the British public. I like the whole thing about, the agenda. I'm with these people every day. There's no agenda. Everything behind it is a passion to create great events. And of course, Riyadh season, like any sponsor, would be looking for the benefits of Riyadh season, a brand, to be seen globally, to raise that profile. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I'll tell you why they're doing it. Because he noticed British fight fans called out for it, and he made it happen. So that's why I think he should do sit-downs with you, because I think when you listen, you'll go, wow, like it's actually quite amazing what's happening. And again, last night, flat out, we're talking about December, we're talking about February, it's just non-stop.
But of course there would be the Saudi national anthem. This is a Riyadh season card. This is being put on by Turkey.
The anthems are normally for the fighters, or in America you'd play it because there's an American anthem because you're in America. But it's like...
You're saying a normal situation,
for me, it's a sign of respect for the work that's been put in to create this event. And for 20 seconds, I mean, is it a big deal? So it is what it is. But, Frank Warren said to Jeff Sten, don't watch it then. But I actually think, no, understand why. And there's a passion from them for our country and a passion for them to help create major sports events. And the fact that he's gone above and beyond, he could have done that show in Riyadh. And everyone would have gone, another big fight in Riyadh, fuck you now. And now he's actually gone out, spent the money to do it in the UK and give everybody just the best night and all these fighters, all these incredible opportunities, and we still find a way to say, yeah, but they played their national anthem. Well, you know what? I'll play the anthem if they want, for what they're doing at every show. They're proud of what they're doing.
Absolutely. Eddie, right, just a few more talking points. What were you arguing with Devin Haney about?
I didn't like his tweet. That was it. I mean, he messaged me, I'll tell you. I'll show you the text, but this was the whole argument because, I have so many people to look after. My fighters, right, who are all asking for tickets. And he messaged me on Thursday morning and said, yo, right? Obviously, that was it. I'm flat out, right? So I go back to him and I reply on, I think, Friday night or early hours of Saturday morning. And he says to me, I'm coming to AJ's fight. I want tickets, mate. Yeah, this was Saturday morning. So I replied, I said, Saudi's Riyadh season have the inner ring sides, mate, because they do. They control the seating. And in advance, we would put our requests in for all our fighters that came to us over the weeks building up, and we would say, we would like these tickets for our fighters. I can't then go back on Saturday morning and just ask, and Devin will only sit in a ringside as well. So it's so that was it. Then I'm sitting at the show, and he tweets, oh, wow, Eddie Hearn wouldn't give me tickets for Riyadh season. Oh, he's a fake ass, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you what? So I just tweeted back saying, firstly, I look after my fighters. Obviously, he's not signed to Matchroom. And secondly, drop the arrogance, mate. And then obviously, during the night, he was texting everyone to try and get in, and Crawford or whoever sorted him out, and he got a seat, right? So I just walked past him and I saw him, and I just said, what do you think you're playing at? And he was like, well, hey, how you doing? I said, no, what are you doing? He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, firstly, what are you tweeting about? Like a kid. I said, you got a problem? call me or message me. I said, don't behave like that. And he said, well, you know, I don't know, you talked about me in some interview. I said, yeah, because I get asked about you all the time. So, and talk about it. I've never disrespected you. So don't, you know, just... And he said, I'll call you, I'll message you. I said, yeah, but I said, you're a good kid. Don't be arrogant. And you'll see it all on Netflix anyway.
Eddie, Conor Benn was obviously present there. Saw him getting a lot of attention while he was at Wembley. What is going on with Conor? I mean, we spoke to Chris Eubank the other day. He says he wants that fight within the next 6 months. What is his situation at the minute? Because
I mean, look, firstly, you would have seen Conor with His Excellency last night. Yeah. That was actually quite random. We were in a restaurant, me, His Excellency, and the team, and Frank Warren, and then Conor was actually next door in a restaurant in Sheesh, and he saw us get out and go into the other restaurant. I said, come in. So he came in, but we'd already been talking about Conor, and we've got big plans for Conor Benn, which I'm not going to go into. But look, the Eubank fight's biggest fight in British boxing outside of AJ Fury, you know, and Eubank's team have been on to me. They want to make the fight, and I believe you'll see it.
His situation behind the scenes, is this coming to a conclusion?
Look, Eubank's fighting October 12th. The fight's not going to take place till February, March. By then, he'll be clear to fight. So we'll let him tie that end up, Conor and his lawyers, which is imminent. But we're already looking, obviously speaking to His Excellency, and like I said, I've spoke to Eubank's team. They reached out and said, look, they want to make the fight. So I believe them, and I think it'll get made.
Before all this situation, obviously with that Eubank fight not happening 2 years ago, when I spoke to you and I asked you once about who is the next pay-per-view star to come out of the country, you did say Conor Benn. That was 2 years ago. Yeah,
I mean,
but
he hasn't boxed in this country.
Correct.
For 2.5 years.
Yeah, go on.
Tell me, outside of AJ and Fury.
I agree. No, I
Dubois is obviously, look, he's earned his right, but obviously, you know, tell me a bigger name than Conor Benn.
No, I agree. No, I agreed with you when you said it.
And he hasn't even fought in this country for 2.5 years. So when he comes back, it's going to be massive. And wherever we do Eubank Benn, it sells out any arena, particularly in the UK as well. I believe it does Wembley or Spurs. But maybe we do it in Riyadh, so we'll have to see. But, you know, it's not the only option for Conor Benn. We've been discussing a number of options. But it is, for me, it's the biggest fight to make.
Do you think there's a possibility we see him out in the ring before the year's out?
No, he'll wait now for that fight in the UK. Okay. Or Riyadh.
The subplot of last week, outside of obviously the fighters, was the promoter beef that was going on all week. Have you guys kind of put it to bed now?
Yeah, not really. It was fun. I mean, it was a great profile for Ben. You know, like I said, I think this is a game of attrition, and it's taxing, this game, you know. It's very hard to survive in this sport, but wish everybody the best. You know, we just focus on putting on the biggest shows around the world, delivering for Riyadh season. I think people enjoy the backwards and forwards. And yeah, you know, like boxing in the ring, just like out the ring, there's levels, and there's all kinds of promoters around the world.
So you guys are cool now, yeah?
Like, always cool. I mean, look, you know.
Do you regret the joke you said it was a joke, what you said to him?
We were up there on the stage. Look at the video. Look at people in the background who could hear what was going on and look at their reaction. You didn't see anyone going, ooh. You saw people laughing at what was happening. So it was funny, but I appreciate to certain people, perhaps, it's, you know, who are a little bit touchy. Maybe it could be construed in a wrong way, but, you know.
Chris Eubank Jr. said he'd train him to fight you. Did you say that?
Yeah. I think, yeah, he was up for it, wasn't he? Ben?
So you're too old, to be fair.
Yeah, I'll see.
There is a big age gap between you, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think I think I look unbelievable. But I'm getting old. But, you know, I'm not going to comment on him more for a bit, but that would be sweet, wouldn't it? Yeah, but I think the main thing is we're really serious about making fights, and I will work with any promoter that is really about making those fights. That's why we did the interview the other day, and I didn't want to get into a 5v5. I just said, look, Dawn, I just started with one fight, and the reality is they can't or don't want to make the fights that we want to make. So I've every intention of working with every promoter in the world. And it's nothing that I don't like this promoter or that promoter, or I'm not working for that. It's just that some people aren't up for making the fights. It's not just Ben Shalom, it's Oscar De La Hoya. He doesn't want to make the fights. And nor does Ben. So there's nothing really to discuss. And I don't, I'm not going to chin him when I walk past him. Just going to, all right. But when there's a fight to do, when he's serious about making a fight, we'll make it like that. But I also don't want to get into this when they're, like, we've seen it so many times, like the Dalton Smith Adam Azim fight. I mean, there was a perfect, was you doing the interview, or Joe was, or whoever it was, last week at the Arrivals? And it was just like, let's make the fights. Okay, Dalton Smith against Adam Azim.
I was doing it, mate.
You were. And it was like, next year, yeah. No, after O'Hara Davis. Well, I've got to speak to the management team. It's like, that's the most basic fight to make. Like, it's not even up for discussion. Just stick them in. Give the British public great fights. So, listen, everything's cool. And, we're looking forward to, I think, the best fight in boxing, which is our guy, Dmitry Bivol, against Artur Beterbiev, October 12th. That's next on the agenda. And he's, Boxer have got some fights on that card. We have, Queensbury have, Gold Star have. So, it's all fine. Obviously, we just want to make sure that we keep delivering for Riyadh season, and that partnership and that relationship is key for us, and particularly our fighters. And don't forget this weekend, she's talking of Sky Sports, you got Sandy Ryan fights Michaela Meyer on Friday night, Madison Square Garden on ESPN and on Sky. Big fight for Sandy. She's going to look great in that fight. Alicia Baumgardner also defends her undisputed championship this week. And of course, Terry Harper against Rhiannon Dixon up in Sheffield. Peter McGrail, George Liddard, Galal Yafai.
Galal Yafai having a run out. Yeah.
So we will be going like this. Listen, people talk about that fight, by the way, next Tuesday, press conference in Birmingham between those two, double lively. We'll all be holding our breath and crossing our fingers when Galal fights on Saturday, but he hasn't boxed for quite a long time, so he needed this run out before he goes into it. It's a massive fight for him. Sonny Edwards against Galal Yafai. So big show on Saturday in Sheffield. We'll see you all there, and see you soon.
I've got two quick things. I know I've taken too much of your time. Did you see Simon Jordan's tweets? Frank Warren wasn't happy about them yesterday. He was kind of referring to the clip that you two were talking about, Ben Shalom. He said, quote, Simon Jordan, I like underdogs, I don't like bullies. It really kind of, pissed Frank Warren off yesterday.
Yeah, Simon, as I understand it, and Simon's quite able to put me right on this, Simon has a financial stroke or business interest in Boxer. So how can we take him seriously on anything he says? If that's not the case, then I apologise, but that is what I understand. So, I don't see how he can be anything but biased. So I've not spoken to him. I know Frank went on yesterday, but victim mentality.
Very last one. This ain't a dig, by the way. But And these Riyadh season cards are great, and what happened the other day was great. But your own matchroom shows, talk to me about them. What can we expect for the rest of the year, Edward?
So, obviously, this weekend we're in Sheffield. Dalton Smith got injured. Johnny Fisher got injured. We go ahead with a good card and great opportunities with our fighters. We have a week off next week. Then we go to Riyadh for Bivol Beterbiev. Then 2 weeks after, we have a brilliant card in Manchester and a great fight. Jack Catterall against Regis Prograis, one of the best fights that can be made in the division at the new Co-op Arena. Great undercard as well. Michael Gomez against Reece Bellotti, British and Commonwealth title. Pat McCormack back in a really good fight. You've got Campbell Hatton rematching Flint. You've also got 2 other fights that we'll be announcing shortly for that card. Then after that, we're in Philadelphia for one of the cards of the year, the 2 Kings, 2 pound-for-pound greats, Jerome Boots Ennis and Bam defend their world titles with Ray Ford, with Khalil Coe, with Tito Mercado. It's an unbelievable card. And then November 30th, one of the best fights I think that can be made in British boxing. Galalia fight against Sonny Edwards, big card in Birmingham. And then we're in Monaco on the 14th. A lot of British fighters on that card as well. 21st, we're in Riyadh for Fury Usyk. But moving forward, you're going to see a lot of changes to our UK product because we know that we can't necessarily always compete with Riyadh season cards, right? No one can. There's a huge investment being made in these cards, and a lot of them will, you know, are not profitable shows or don't get close to wiping their faces. But we need to change the product because I think sometimes the product can get a little bit tired. So we're having big meetings here with our team to talk about what changes we think we should make. I'd actually like to hear it from you guys as well. We need to make better fights and we need to make bigger headline fights. But what do you think about the in-arena experience? What do you think about watching this product on TV? Give you an example. I think sometimes the broadcast goes on too long. I think there's too many gaps between the fights. I think the main event is too late. Do we bring it forward to a 9 p.m. start? Do we cut the chat in between the shows? Do we do 4 fights? Do we do dual walkouts? Do we do no walkouts? I look at the UFC, the flow of the event. So there is going to be significant changes to the product in 2025. Not just in terms of the fights that we insist on the cards and the main event, but what you see on DAZN and what you feel in the arena. So watch this space and let me know. You're the customer.
Actually, one more. Do you think we'll see more than one Riyadh season card in the UK next year?
Tough one.
Come on, Eddie.
Let's hope for just one. Because you've got Riyadh season runs from October to March and then starts again in October. So, if we can get one event like Saturday a year, I'll be happy.
What about one big event and like 5 like medium events?
Who knows? Anything is possible.
Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for nearly 52 minutes of your time. I know, but you're keeping the people entertained.
Oh, I missed my workout.
All right, have you got anything else you'd just like to add?
No, tune in on Saturday to DAZN and press conference tomorrow. Bivol Beterbiev, great card as well, October 12th. And then press conference Thursday. And then Friday looks like an evening weigh-in at the GBM show because we're in the same arena Friday and Saturday night. Weigh-in on Friday night. See you in Sheffield on Saturday.
All right, keep your head up, Ed.
Always, mate.
All right, mate.
Always.
No problem. Thank you very much.